Hey guys, welcome. So if you're an avid lover of retro games like me, this video is definitely for you. And if you're not, I bet by the end of this video you will become one. So watch on. This pie in my hand holds over 2000 retro games from almost every console. It's kind of crazy. I feel like I'm making it up, but I'm not. You can also use whatever controller you want. Pick your one and you can run it. And the craziest feature of all, online multiplayer gaming. You can be anywhere playing Mario Kart with your friend online. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make your very own retro gaming pie. We'll also explore the most secure way to play multiplayer games online over crazy distances. So what do we need to get started? First, you'll need a Raspberry Pi. A Raspberry Pi 4 at the minimum is recommended. And if you have a Raspberry Pi 5, you'll have a good time too. Now, optionally, if you don't have a Raspberry Pi, you can actually install it on any machine with Docker. It's not officially supported and it might encounter bugs, but it's possible. I'll leave a link in the description for you to try it out. But for this video, we're just going to cover Raspberry Pis. Now, like any Raspberry Pi project, you'll need a micro SD card or a thumb drive for this. The size is up to you, but if you want all 2000 games locally, you'd at least need a 256 gig card. But we'll also explore how to map your NAS location to the RetroPie. So if you have a NAS like me, a 32 gig card or a drive should be fine. You'll also need a power supply, a keyboard, and some kind of monitor. This could be your TV. In fact, if you're going to be using this as a gaming console, which I am doing, a TV is preferable for our setup. Optionally, you may want a gamepad. I'll be using an 8-bit Do Lite 2, but you can pretty much use anything. Alright, so let's get started installing RetroPie. I've got my Raspberry Pi, I've got my thumb drive. So first thing you want to do is put your thumb drive or micro SD card into your computer. Next, we'll need to install Raspberry Pi Imager. If you're on Mac or Linux, you can install it using Homebrew. Just run brew install cask Raspberry Pi Imager. If you're on Windows, you can install it by using Scoop, by running scoop install Raspberry Pi Imager. And if you don't prefer using a package manager, you can just head to raspberrypi.com/software and download it from there. So once we have installed Raspberry Pi Imager, we will open it up. And the first thing we need to do is choose the device. In my case, it's Raspberry Pi 4, but you can just as easily select a Raspberry Pi 5. The next steps will be pretty much device agnostic. Now, before we choose the operating system, we'll choose the storage, which is my 32 gig thumb drive. Just a quick note here to carefully choose the right storage device, because after this process is completed, everything in the drive will be completely wiped off. Last, we need to choose the OS. So Raspberry Pi Imager has this huge list of operating systems that you can choose from, and here we'll choose the Raspberry Pi OS Lite 64-bit. Now, if you're on a Raspberry Pi 4, you can choose to install an official RetroPie image directly, but we'll avoid that to keep things device agnostic, since RetroPie doesn't have an official image for Raspberry Pi 5 as of this recording. So, as soon as you click Next, you'll get this pop-up saying if you want to customize OS settings, and we do want to do that, because we need to configure a few settings beforehand, which will make it much easier to install RetroPie after. So hit Edit Settings, and we want to change a couple of settings here. First, we want to set the host name. We'll just call it RetroPie. Next, we want to set the username and password. I'm going to use the default username Pi and strong password. Now, if you're not planning on using a wired Ethernet connection like me, then you'll need to configure your Wi-Fi details here. Enter your SSID and password, and definitely remember to select your wireless LAN country. That's your Wi-Fi configured. I will disable this since I'll be using a wired Ethernet connection. Next, we definitely need to set the locale settings. So time zone, that's Pacific Oakland for me, And keyboard layout, I'll leave it at US. Next, we need to go in the Services tab and enable SSH and choose Use Password Authentication. That's it for the customization settings. Hit Save and then select Yes. It will give you a warning to reconsider your decision to wipe off the drive you've selected. Hit Yes and you're off to the races. After Raspberry Pi OS has been written to the SD card, I can now remove the drive. We'll put the drive in our Raspberry Pi, supply power, and from there you can install RetroPie on top of Raspberry Pi OS. Let's do that now. So remember how we enabled SSH? That will come in extremely handy now. You can use your terminal to open a new SSH session and connect to your RetroPie. I'll just type SSH pi, which is our username, @retropie.local. Now, retropie.local is the host name you set. If you chose something different to RetroPie, just write that here. We'll need to accept the fingerprint, so type yes. Then we need to enter our password, whatever you chose. And that's it. We are now inside Raspberry Pi's terminal. First, we'll make sure our repositories are up to date. So sudo apt update, and then sudo apt upgrade -y. Hey, so editing up a menu here. What I'm doing here is installing Git using sudo apt install git because the light version of Raspberry Pi OS does not come with Git pre-installed. After it's done, we'll use Git to clone the RetroPie repository. Again, all the commands that I'm using here will be in the Git repo for this video, which I'll link down below. So just copy and paste them from there. Once it's done, we'll cd into RetroPie setup directory. We'll make the setup script executable with the chmod command. And then we'll run the script with sudo /retropie setup.sh. Now, as soon as you do that, we'll be inside the RetroPie setup. Let's go through this. We'll hit OK. Now, if you've installed a 64-bit Raspberry Pi OS like me, you might get this message. It's not officially supported, but we'll still do it. To install everything, we'll choose Basic Install. In most cases, that's what you want. We'll go ahead and hit Return, select Yes, and the script will start doing its thing. This install might take some time to complete, depending on a bunch of things. So I'll pause the video here and return when it's done. So I'm back after about 90 minutes. Once the installation finishes, you'll see the same initial screen again. If you don't see the main menu, just rerun the setup script. So we'll go down the menu and select Configuration Tools, and then select Start Emulation Station at Boot. Back in the menu, we'll go down a bit more and select Enable Bash Welcome Tweak. Then select Install Bash Welcome Tweak. Once that's done, we can exit out of our config and reboot our Pi 5. Alright, let's boot up this Raspberry Pi. I'm going to plug it in the TV through HDMI. And I'm going to plug in my network cable. I'm using a PoE hat on my Pi, so I will get power via the network cable as well. Here we go. If you worked with a Raspberry Pi before, you'll have seen the screen a million times. And while this is setting up, I'm going to get my keyboard ready. This is a cheap AliExpress keyboard mouse combo that I am using, but any keyboard will do. Though I suggest using a wired or dongle-based keyboard. I also have my gamepad ready. So this is an 8-bit DO Lite 2 controller that I'll be connecting to RetroPie with Bluetooth. But again, you can use any USB gamepad you want, wired or wireless. So when your RetroPie is booted, you'll see this message saying no gamepads detected. That just means we need to start configuring gamepads. We'll start with the keyboard. Now I highly recommend that before you set up a gamepad, you set up your keyboard. This is in case you accidentally configure your gamepad wrong or something, you will always have the keyboard to fall back on. Let's get started with that. I'll just switch on my keyboard and it just says hold a button on your device to configure it. I just held down a button and this is the configuration screen. So I will do the up arrow key for D-pad up, down for D-pad down, left for D-pad left, right for D-pad right. For start, I'll just say return. For select, I'll do a weird like media key on this keyboard, but you can choose any. And for A, I'll do X. This is just me. I've played on PCs before, and this is the key bindings I used to use. So I'm just doing what's familiar. For B, it's Z. For X, it's A. And for Y, it's S. Alright, for the rest, we can skip them. If you just hold down any button, it will skip. But wait before you hit OK. We definitely do need to configure the hotkey enable button. We'll explore what it means soon, but for the time being, we will configure it. So I'll just do a spacebar. Hit OK with your A key, and we are in. Next, onto adding my gamepad. So if I try using my gamepad right now, obviously nothing happens because I haven't connected it yet. To do that, I need to open up the RetroArch menu by hitting A. So here I'll just use my keyboard because we haven't set up the gamepad yet, and go into Bluetooth options. With that, you'll enter the system Bluetooth menu. Now this UI looks a little different and unpolished from what we've been seeing. This is the look for system settings in a Pi. If you worked with Raspberry Pis before, you'll be familiar with this look. And in the course of configuring your RetroPie, you'll see this kind of screen multiple times. So let's get used to it. Here, the controls are pretty simple. We navigate using the arrow keys. Anything on the vertical axis, we navigate using the up and down keys. And to move between the horizontal axis, we use the left and right. And to finalize a command, we use the return key. We'll obviously start with pair and connect to Bluetooth device. But before that, on my 8-bit DO gamepad, after switching it on, I will slide this little switch to the D position and hold the pairing button up top for about 5 seconds to enter pairing mode. You'll know you've entered pairing mode when you see the LEDs at the bottom shuffling. Now we're ready to pair and connect to Bluetooth device. Select that and it will search for devices, find your device and hit OK. For me, it will be the 8-bit DO Lite 2. Here it is. I hit OK. And on this screen, we'll just select the first option. Now, if it doesn't work for you by selecting the first option, it clearly states on the screen, you can try the second option too. And if you're back on the screen, that means your controller has paired successfully. So for 8-bit DO controller specifically, you'll have to enable something called the UDEV rule. The option to set that is conveniently located just below the pair settings. It's the 4th option. You just have to make sure you've selected that and selected your controller and you've gotten a message. Then you can hit cancel to exit out to the Bluetooth settings menu. Now we can start mapping the controls on our gamepad. Back in the RetroPie configuration screen, we'll hit start to open the main menu and navigate to configure input. And then it's the boring task of mapping every key. With that, our gamepad is added too. But we're still missing something. The actual games. Now, To copy over the games from wherever it's stored to our RetroPie, we'll use SCP or the Secure Copy Protocol. So let's jump back into the computer and do that now. We are going to copy the ROMs that we have downloaded or acquired in some means to our RetroPie. We'll use this one-line command. Now this command should work across the board, whether you're on Mac, Linux, or Windows. So quickly going over what this does, SCP obviously stands for Secure Copy Protocol. The -R stands for recursive, so that means we want to copy all folders it finds in the ROM path, and then we need to paste in the path where our ROMs are. I'll find my ROMs on my computer, got a bunch of these here, and I'm going to right-click that and say copy ROMs as path name. Back into a terminal, we'll paste that path here and end it with a / and asterisk. It just asks it to copy everything that's inside the folder. Next, it's our username, which is pi@retropie.local, same as when we connected to the SSH session. We'll follow that by a colon and then tilde to target the home directory of the Pi, then a /retropie /roms /. Now, after our ROMs are in, we'll need to restart Emulation Station for the games to show up. For that, we'll open the main menu again by hitting Select, go down to Quit, and we need to restart Emulation Station. Once restarted, we can see all the games that we just added. Now, what we copied over using SCP were just 200 games, which is okay for us to get started, but if you have a larger collection of ROMs, for example what I mentioned at the beginning, something around 2,000 games, then while you can use a larger drive to copy every game over locally, there's a much better way. And that's to mount a NAS share in our RetroPie. So, how do we do that? We'll need to log back into RetroPie using SSH. Didn't I tell you SSH would come in handy? Well, we'll use a simple command to mount our NAS. And to make sure we don't have to mount our NAS every time we reboot the Pi, we'll just edit the fstab file. We can do that using nano, so sudo nano /etc /fstab. And there, I'll just paste in the mount command. So, where it says NAS IP, you just replace that with your NAS's IP / the path. Now, this is the path where in your NAS the ROMs are stored, and we are basically targeting the home directory, RetroPie, and ROMs in our Raspberry Pi. Now, you have to replace username by your username for your NAS and password with your NAS's password. And the rest of it can remain the same. Hit save and you're golden. You will need to reboot your Pi after you've modified your fstab file. Once rebooted and after our share is mounted, the games from Sega Master System and Game Boy Advance also shows up along with Super Nintendo and Nintendo. So that definitely means that we have mounted the share successfully, because these systems we didn't copy over in the first pass. Now, once we have all our ROMs in, there are a ton of things we can do to personalize how everything looks. I'm obviously not going to show you all of those, but we'll explore a few. So first, I'll hit Start again to open up the main menu, and then go into UI settings. And you can see there's a few different options for you to make things look nicer. Now, here's an option to ignore articles. It just makes it easier to sort things by name. Enabling this will make sure that a game like The Legend of Zelda sorts under L, Legend of Zelda, rather than T, The Legend of Zelda. Convenient. Alright, back with the games. Now, if I go into any of these systems, you'll see the games, the list looks pretty bland. It would be nice to have some metadata and BoxArt. To do that, we'll go into the main menu by pressing Start and go into Scraper. So first we need to choose where to scrape from. You can choose between the Games DB and Screen Scraper. Personally, I have had better luck with the Games DB, but your mileage may vary, so give both a try. Next, we go and select Scrape Now. We'll ask it to only scrape for the missing images. And what's cool is you can select which of the systems you want to scrape for. I will just select all of them. And the last option, I'll turn off User Decides on Conflicts, which will just eliminate interruptions in the scraping process. I have almost 200 games on here, so this is going to take a while. I'll be back once it's done. Alright, I'm back. It took maybe about 15 minutes. But now that it's finally done, we can exit out of this. So here's my list, and I can use the shoulder buttons to browse through this list way faster. Alright, let me open up Super Mario Kart. Now, I am by no regards a gamer, but you will see once the game opens, it works like a charm. Now that we can open games, do you remember the hotkey button we set earlier? So if I press the hotkey button by itself, nothing happens. That's because we're not supposed to press it by itself. We're supposed to press it in combination with other buttons. So for example, if I press hotkey plus start, it takes me back to the game list and exits out of the game. But there's more we can do. Let's go into a different game. Now here we are at Donkey Kong Country. Here I can press the hotkey plus the right shoulder button to save my state to slot 0. So now if something happens, like I die, I can hit hotkey and left shoulder button to load the state. Pretty sweet. Really useful for trying to get through some of the more difficult retro games. What else? Okay, hotkey and B will reset the game. Finally, hotkey and X will open up the RetroArch menu. Now, the RetroArch menu is where all the advanced emulator settings live, and I just wanted to open it up to get us familiar with it. This is where you would be able to set up things like cheats or retro achievements. We won't be going over them in this video, but comment down below if you would like a video on that. This is also where we'll be able to configure Netplay to play multiplayer games over the internet. Now there is something extremely important that you must remember whenever you're changing any of these RetroArch settings. They don't save automatically. You have to save them yourself. So let me show you how to do that. I can go down into configuration file and save current configuration. That is extremely important. Do not forget that. If you don't do that, you'll lose everything if you just exit out. So for now, I'll exit out of this game and the RetroArch menu. Okay, finally to the most exciting part. Let's talk about Netplay. So with Netplay, there's a host and a client. Now, it doesn't really matter which is which, but for us, I was the host and my brother was the client. But in general, I'd say it would probably be a good idea to have the person with the most stable internet connection be the host. Now, first things first, this is extremely important. You need to make sure that the host and all the clients are all using the latest version of RetroArch. Because if you're not all on the same version, it will not work. So let me first show you how to do that. First, we are going to go into our RetroPie config and we are going to go down to RetroPie setup. Alright, now you should see this. So we are just going to go down to update and press A or return. It says, are you sure you want to update and install packages? Hit yes, and then the updates will start. Okay, now this will take a while, so I'm going to set this down and I'll be back when it's done. So I'm going to hit return. Now I'm going to go down to the bottom option and do perform reboot, and I'll choose yes. So let's now see if our RetroArch has updated. I'll go down to information, we'll do system information, and there we go, RetroArch version 1.20.0. So as long as all of us are on version 1.20.0, me and my friends should be able to connect through Netplay perfectly. Now, if you want to play together with someone who is literally on the other side of the globe, so I'm here in Auckland and my brother is 12,000 kilometers away in Calcutta, you'll need to do a bunch of shenanigans with your public IP and map ports and share your public IP and port forwards and routers, etc, etc, etc. Now, here comes the magical part. Tailscale can eliminate all those scary things like exposing your public IP and mapping ports and blah blah blah. As long as both the pies are in the same tailnet, connecting to each other, it will be easy as pie. So, setting up Tailscale on a pie is a cakewalk. Just head into your Tailscale account, click on Add Device, select Linux Server. Once there, we'll need to set a couple of options. So, I don't want to introduce any tags at this point, and we definitely don't want it to be reusable or anything. And I'll just set the auth key expiration to 1 day, just because I'm doing this as a demo. And I'll press Generate Install Script. With that, I have this one-line command, which I can literally paste into the terminal on my Raspberry Pi. So, back to SSH again. Go there, paste it, let it do its magic. So you'll want to do the same thing on the client devices as well. You technically can invite users from other tailnets or share devices between tailnets, but if you just want it to be simple, create a Tailscale account just for RetroPie gaming and then add all the Raspberry Pis into that tailnet. So I have done just that. I've added my brother's Raspberry Pi in my tailnet as well. So now we are armed to set up Netplay finally. We are going to have to go back to the RetroPie menu, and I'm going to look for RetroArch Netplay settings. So those should be right down here. And press A to go into those. So there's a few options here. Let's go through those options. Number 1, set mode. So you can choose to be the host or the client. In my case, I'm the host. 2, we'll need to set a port. By default, it's port 55435. We'll keep it to the default. 3, set host IP address. We don't have to worry about this because we will be using a tailnet IP address anyway. And option 4 is your Netplay nickname. So you want to make this identifiable so you can tell each other apart. And then at the very bottom, you save configuration, press OK, and then you can exit. Now we are ready to boot up a game. So let's say I want to play Super Mario Kart through Netplay. All I need to do is press A to open the game, and as the game is booting up, press A again. And now I'll go down to the second to last option. It reads Launch with Netplay enabled, and I'll just press A again. And there we go. You'll see you have joined as player 1, waiting for client, Netplay port mapping successful. So I had a wonderful gaming session with my brother where I walked him through all this and how to set this up on the client side, and then we indulged in a few different games. So let's see how each of us fared. Spoiler alert, I am terrible at games. Go into the RetroPie configuration. Enter RetroArch Netplay settings, enter, set the mode to client. That is client. Now we need to set the host IP address. So here, instead of giving my public IP address, I'll just provide him my Tailscale IP address, which is 100.123.103.126. All right, and then we also need to set a nickname. So mine is RetroPie A. So you can set it as RetroPie, and then OK, and then save configuration, and then we can exit. We'll go to Super Nintendo, and let's start with Mario Kart. So how Netplay works is you press A to launch,
And then press A again right away. I'll do it first, and then you do it. Connected to RetroPie A. Brilliant. And then forward to go forward, I think. Oh, B to go forward. Sorry. Shit. Okay. Hey. So bad at this. I am. Hey. Hey. Yeah. How to remain straight. Hey. Go back. Hey.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, nice. Nice. Oh, I have not even finished yet. Shit. I need to do another lap. Wait. I am very bad at this. Very bad. Wait. Okay. I think that's it. Okay. Alright, we'll exit out of this game and try another game just to see if that works as well. Koopa Troopa, and Yoshi is last. As usual. So we'll exit out of this game and switch.
Street Fighter?
Street Fighter. I don't even know. I remember the controls. I don't even remember the controls.
Let's try it out.
Try it out, yeah. Now one. Right. Huh? Oh, that's fun. Oh shit. You just basically mash the buttons. Wait. Oh shit. Yeah. KO. Nice. Okay, round 2. Fight. Oh shit. Okay. Oof. I used to play this so much. Shit. Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. probably end there.
So that's it for this video. Give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new here and the bell icon to receive notifications for all my new videos. I've also created a Patreon for those of you who like what I create and want to support me. So go join there. Until next time, this is Upamanyu signing off. Thank you.